Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome to another Pause and Pray. Rick is a man who's been incredibly driven much of his life. He has very high standards. He's very demanding of himself and of those around him. Hasn't always been the easiest to work with and for, as coworkers would attest. He can be hard on his 6th grade and 8th grade children because of his demands and his standards. And he'll be the first to admit that it's not always even possible to live up to those standards on the part of others or even on the part of himself. Those standards have brought Rick some success in his life. They've also brought him some struggle. Recently, Rick and his wife found out they were expecting a 3rd child. This wasn't necessarily anticipated, but the experience has already had a profound impact on Rick's life. Even though he hasn't met his child yet, that probably won't be for another 4 months or so. But Rick has spoken about how this experience has found something new in him that he really never knew was there, or certainly didn't allow to surface, and that was a real profound sense of gentleness with himself and with those around him. It's not like he's mean or cruel, but he told me the other day that he apologized to his children for not being gentler with them. And they rolled their eyes at him, as middle schoolers often do. He said he suspects, though, that somewhere deep down inside, they got what he was talking about in that conversation, though. And he's been speaking about the gift of being gentler with himself and with others, and how that's allowed gifts in others and even in himself to surface that he never would have been aware of when he was so focused on his own standards that he kept trying to live up to or want others to live up to. Today the church lifts up the feast of the conversion of St. Paul. And we know the story. Paul, on the road to Damascus, has this profound encounter with Jesus, and it turns his life inside out. Paul goes from this vehement persecutor of the church to one who would be this profound source of strength and witness in the early church to help it grow in new ways and reach new audiences and communities and hearts and souls. And Paul speaks about his conversion experience in chapter 3 of his letter to the Philippians in the language not of finding something on his own, but of being found in Jesus, of being found by God in Jesus. Just like something new was found in Rick as he expects his 3rd child along with his wife. And I think of Rick's story, I think of the conversion of St. Paul, and both offer us holy invitations today to pause and pray, reflecting on the gift of how we've come to experience God finding something new in our lives. Maybe that happens when we step into a new chapter, a new job experience, or a new chapter like retirement, and we find new passions, new gifts we never even knew we had. Or maybe it happens like it did for Rick when somebody new steps into our lives and breaks our lives open, not to break us, but so that gifts we never knew we had can find room to come to the surface. And in all of that, perhaps it helps cast a new light on our own experience and understanding of conversion, a light worth celebrating. Because it helps us see conversion not as something that reveals to us that there's something intrinsically or fundamentally wrong or broken in our lives that we need to turn away from, but rather a light that helps us see conversion as God's wonderful work, constantly committed to mining our lives for new gifts God created us to be, and gifts God gave us, but gifts we maybe never knew we had or understood. And God works to not just find those gifts, but to make space in our lives so that what is found can have the opportunity to come to the surface, maybe for the first time. God's peace and blessings to you all.